Alright guys, MTech Guy here, and today we're going to look at replacing the belts and pulleys on the E60 M5. So why would you want to change out your belts and pulleys? Well, of course your belts are made out of rubber and they're going through a lot of rotation and friction the whole time they're running, and they become worn over time, and then when they become excessively worn they can start coming apart, they can break, and if they break they can cause overheating problems, charging problems, and also it can cause a lot of destruction. If it comes apart in your engine bay, it can go through radiator hoses, you can damage your cooling fan, you can damage all sorts. So you want to be getting these changed out proactively. You don't want to wait until they fail, you want to be changing them out before they fail. Same goes for the pulleys as well. They do wear over time, the bearings get worn out, and they can also fail, causing the belt to come apart or the belt to come off. So of course you don't want to let it get to that stage. You want to be changing them out proactively, of course, before they get to the stage where they are failing or just about to fail. Now, I've had this car for just over a year now. I don't know when the last time the belts and pulleys were changed out or what the real condition of them is, so I'm just going to go ahead and replace them anyway for peace of mind. So let's go and take a look what parts we've got. So of course we've got the two belts, one for the AC side, one for the alternator side. I've gone for the Continental brand, they're OEM, same as what you'd get from the BMW dealership, just in a different packet. Real good quality belts and not a bad price either. And then next up we've got the offset idler pulley. Now this is an I&A brand, OEM again, they're real good quality. I've tried cheaper ones in the past, but they just start failing much sooner. These last a long time, good quality, not a bad price either. Now if the pulleys that you've got on the car are starting to fail, you can normally tell because they'll start making a chirping noise or a sort of grumbling, rattly noise. So it's worth getting them changed out, but obviously you want to do it before they fail. So if they're a few years old, or you don't know the last time they were changed, or you think they might be the original ones, just get them changed out for peace of mind, and they do last a while. Yeah, the I&A ones, they've got real good bearings in, the cheaper ones haven't, and they do fail much quicker. Now then, both the belt tensioners both have a idler pulley each. Now normally you can't buy these separately. For this car they come already mounted to the aluminium bracket. So you've got one for the alternator side and one for the AC side. Now with them normally coming already mounted to the aluminium brackets, and you're buying them as like a whole unit, each one of them, it makes them quite expensive, and they don't normally list these separately for this car. They're very hard to find, but there's a wee trick here. What I found out myself is I&A do these ones, they've got a different style bolt and they've got this backing plate on here. Now if you remove the bolt and the backing plate, the actual pulley is identical to what's on the tensioner pulleys on this car. So what I'll do is I'll leave the part numbers in the description below and you can see what they are. Now I've gone for an I&A one here, but I've also ended up, the second one is a Febby one, but as it turns out it is I&A brand anyhow. This exactly the same part as what came in the I&A box. It worked out a tiny bit cheaper, but either way they're pretty cheap these, and you can't buy them through BMW or specifically to this car. But yeah, that's just a wee trick. If you buy these ones, the actual pulley's exactly the same as what is on the car. Just got to remove these bits that aren't of any use to us. And of course, as part of the tensioners, you've also got the little hydraulic tensioners also. Now I've chosen not to change them out today, just going for the belts and the pulleys. I find that the hydraulic tensioners very rarely fail. They are quite expensive for this car. You can buy the tensioners separately, and like I say, they don't often fail for these cars. Now when we get in there and start removing the pulleys and everything, I will inspect them for any fluid leaks, or just by feel as well. If they're starting to feel sloppy and they're losing the tension, then that's something I can sort of buy separately later on if it's needed. But like I say, it hasn't got such a high failure rate as the belts and the pulleys themselves. That's what we're looking at getting done today. Rightio, let's get into it. Okay, so the belts and pulleys are buried right down the front of the engine there. Just about to see them down there. So to gain access, we need to get the radiator fan out of the way, and to be able to do that we need to start off by removing the metal radiator cover here. So this is just T-Torx 30 bolts, so we'll get that removed first. Okay, so now that we've got the metal radiator cover plate out of the way, next we need to remove this plastic radiator cover. So we'll start off by unclipping these hoses from the cover, this plastic pipe, and then we've got some T25 Torx bolts just around the cover here to remove. Down there, another one down there, and then we'll lift that off out of the way. Alright, so now we've got the plastic radiator cover out of the way. I've just pulled forward these the hood latch cables and these other electrical cables. So the next step is we need to remove the electrical connector to the radiator fan on the end of this cable here, which is right down the bottom there on the left hand side of the car. You see down the bottom there, so it's just a case of squeezing your hand through this gap here and you're pretty much doing it by feel. Okay, so we've got the radiator fan electrical connector removed now. As you can see, it's just two prongs on the side there to push in to pull off. It's not too hard, it's just you just got to get your hand squeezed down there and you can't really see what you're doing. So anyway, now that's off, I've unclipped it from the radiator fan there. There's a few clips that hold the cable in place. So what I'll do now is I'll just fold this over to one side so it's out of our way. There's one less thing in the way to getting this out because we've got enough in the way. We've got these hoses and plastic pipes. So the next step, we're going to remove the radiator fan itself, this whole plastic unit. So to be able to do that, there's a clip either side. You just see it down there. It's like a thick plastic tab, and that's designed to sort of flick forward like that. And there's one on the other side too, just buried under that radiator hose. You just see it there, look. So, but before you can sort of flip them forward to remove the whole thing, I don't know if you can see it down there, but it's sort of sat in a catch there, so you need to, so this needs to be lifted up about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and then you can sort of rotate them 90 degrees, them flaps, one there, on the other side like that, and then just shimmy it out of there. And obviously you just got to be careful of all these cables and hoses and everything, so it is a bit of a fiddly job, but just take your time, don't damage anything, don't rush it, and yeah, it's not too big of a deal. Okay, so we've got the fan out now, and you can see here's some plastic tabs I was talking about. They just fold 90 degrees, and just a word of warning, when you're trying to get the radiator fan out, these things are going to drive you mad. They're going to catch on all the hoses and everything, and you have to sort of manoeuvre them as you go. But yeah, if you go into it knowing that, just take your time so you don't damage any of these smaller hoses. You know, you don't want to end up cracking these cooling lines. But yeah, you've even got to slide it just between the radiator hose and the edge of the radiator there. Does take a bit of manoeuvring, but just take your time and it'll come out. Right then, so now we can see what we came for. We've got some better access. So if we take a look down here, obviously you've got the belts here. This pulley here, that's your offset idler pulley. And then you've got this one down here, that's your air conditioning belt tensioner. That's the pulley down there. And there's the pulley here that's joined to the alternator tensioner. So what we'll do to start off with is we'll prise these plastic caps off the front just with a wee pocket screwdriver, and then we'll look at releasing the tension on the tensioners themselves and get the belts off. So I've got the pulley caps removed here. Now this one for the offset tensioner, I didn't get one with the new one that I bought, so we'll reuse that. We'll just clean it up. These two, the new pulleys, did come with the caps. If you've bought aftermarket ones, yours might have not come with the caps, and it's likely that these aren't going to fit if you didn't buy INA manufactured ones. But anyhow, we'll replace these two with the pulleys, and this one we'll reuse after we've cleaned it up. Okay, so before we go any further, what I've done is I've just made a bit of a crude sketch of the actual routing of the belts, so I don't get lost when I come back to replace them. You'll probably find all this online anyway, but I've just made myself a wee little sketch there. Now then, the two tensioner pulleys, to release the tension on the belts, we're going to use a 14mm socket on a long 1/2 inch breaker bar, and we're going to turn it, looking from the front of the car, you want to be rotating it clockwise like that, just to release the tension, and then just feed the belt off as you go. So now we have the belts removed, and we'll start off by removing the offset tensioner pulley. We need to get that off first because we can't actually get this belt out until that's out of the way. So you'll need a 16mm socket to remove that one. So we'll get it out of the way first, we'll get the belt off, we'll feed the new belt in, and then we can replace this one for the new one. And then with the tensioner pulleys, that's just the same 14mm socket, we'll remove them and replace them with the new ones also. And before we go any further, it's just worth inspecting them hydraulic tensioners there. So I've got one there, no fluid leaks, and it felt okay when we released the
tension off the belt there. It looks okay. We'll see if we can find the other one somewhere here. There we go. I don't know if you can see it there. But yeah, that looks good. Okay, we'll refit the belts and the new pulleys. We'll start piecing everything back together. Okay, so we've got the old belts and pulleys off the car here. Now they weren't in too bad condition. They were just starting to show some signs of wear. This one was starting to get a little bit grumbly when you spin it. This one was just freewheeling way too much. The bearing was starting to lose its tension there. This one wasn't too bad, but they were all at various stages of wear. Not completely worn out yet, but it's good to get them changed out and peace of mind that we're going to have brand new ones in there. Same with the belts. Now let's take a look at the belts. They didn't look too bad at all. There's not much wear on them at all. No cracking. There's a wee crack there, but especially on this one, you can see it's got a split on it. So even though they did look okay initially, upon further inspection, I'm glad I got this changed out. Definitely worth it. So with your belts, they will wear over time with them being rubber. Even if you haven't put many miles on the car over a long period of time, with them being rubber, they will deteriorate. They will start dry rotting and cracking anyway, so it's definitely worth getting them changed out. So we've got the two new tensioner pulleys here. I've removed the rear caps and the Torx bolts there, and then what we'll do is we'll reuse the old bolts with them. Now with these standing a little bit taller than the older ones, what I have just found is the caps that came with it, they're going to be too shallow. So what we'll do, you see the new ones, or the older ones, are a bit taller, just to accommodate the depth of the head of that bolt. So we'll just clean up all three of the old caps. Up here, we'll clean all them up and we'll reuse all them. And like I say, these are exactly the same dimensions as the old ones. I've given them a bit of a measure just to double check, but they are the same, even though it's different sort of part number, because these don't come with the metal bracket like I talked about before. These are good to go. Okay, we've got the first belt on there, and it's worth just going around the whole thing. Just run your fingers around each pulley, make sure it's seated correctly and it's not sort of sitting over to one side or anything. Make sure it's all feeling and looking correct before we're going to fire this engine up. We'll now install the offset idler pulley, and then we'll put our air conditioning pulley back on, put the AC belt back on, and then start piecing everything back together. Radiator fan, the plate. Alright, there we have it. That's that job sorted. Now one thing worth mentioning, all these cooling hoses, pipes that we've been flexing out the way, it is just worth running the car up to temperature in your driveway and checking for any leaks where you've disturbed all these bits and pieces. Make sure there's no leaks. It's better to find out now than when you're heading down the road at spinning the engine up at 8,000 RPMs. Same with the belts, just make sure they're all running true and everything looks okay down there. So I hope you guys found this video useful and interesting. If you did, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe for more M5 videos. I'm MT Guy. Thanks for watching.